65 of Couch Crunchers, where our foreheads are just as long as Pennywise's. With me, I have got Lance and Sam. Say hi, guys.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Before we get going at all, I just want to make sure, surprising no one, we are announcing that Sam is an official member of the podcast.
Hey.
I think anyone that listens to the show regularly probably already knows that because he's been on like every show for like 3 months, but we never officially said it. So I was like, wait, we need to say that just so that we have it out there. So yes, welcome aboard, Sam. We're happy to have you. And no, Matt, we riot is what the Absolute Geek podcast says. I'm pretty sure that's Matt from Absolute Geek.
So Matt wanted to come on this week, but had zero interest in watching the movie that we want to talk about. So he's going to be on for Joker.
Yeah, better luck next time, Matt.
Which, speaking of Joker, we're going to do it a little bit different this time. We're not going to get right into Fab or Flub, but speaking of Joker, it is getting amazing reviews, and it even just won the Venice Film Festival. I think that's kind of crazy. Like, even Logan didn't get that kind of a praise, and it was a very, like, dramatic, well-done comic book movie.
I think that there's a reason for that, though, that Logan has a lot of fantasy elements that are necessary for the character.
True.
Whereas Joker is real. Like, it's the way that they created this movie is that it's actually happening. There's no appearance of Batman. There's no superpowers or anything like that. Like, it's a real gritty movie about a dude dressed up as a clown who terrorizes people.
Yeah,
like it's set more in a real world, so you're able to relate to it more, I guess. Not relate to it, but you understand what I'm saying? That
yeah. It's. I've seen the joke several times. It's the Joker is what is created by society in this movie. Like it's just this is what happens when a crazy person is treated poorly by society.
Right.
I don't know. Anyway, it's just. It looks good, though. I'm excited for it, man. That makes me even more excited than before. What do you think, new podcast member?
Yeah, well, thank you. It comes across as sort of a character study and a cautionary tale. All the latest trailers and behind the scenes and promos I've seen for it, they make it seem like Arthur.
Did you the comment on YouTube? Absolute Geek says it looks like Sam's podcasting from the toilet.
Oh my gosh! I'm sorry, dude. I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
it was funny. It was funny. Sam has a.
He's gonna pummel you with Stormbreaker.
This is what I use to plunge the toilet when it gets real stuck.
For the listeners, it gets
real stuck.
For the listeners, it's a prop of Stormbreaker. Sorry, what were you saying, Sam?
Who cares? We'll move on. It looks like a cool movie. I'll go see it.
I'm going to give it 6 out of 5 Couch Crunchers. That's just what I'm doing right now. I'm pulling a Kyle. Kyle just gives amazing ratings when he hasn't seen the movie, so that's what I'm doing. Joker, 6 out of 5 cushions.
5 cushions and an ottoman?
Yes. All right. So,
Max, what the hell are we doing here, man?
We're having fun. All right.
What are we talking about?
Before we move into Fab or Flub, I wanted to do something we've done before, but we haven't done in a while. Let's. I just wanted to hear from each of you. What are you guys reading, watching, listening to, playing? What are you guys up to right now?
Dave Chappelle, Sticks and Stones.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I want to watch that one.
I started it, but only got like 5 minutes in, and then I was tired.
Oh, it's so good. Even while I'm sitting here on the toilet, it's still really good.
Your bathroom is really elaborate. I mean, there's rocking posters and
it's the true man cave.
So Anna and I are watching a few things. So I'm finally watching Jack Ryan on my own. She has no interest in seeing it.
You hadn't seen it yet?
I don't know. I don't think I like it as much as everybody else. It's kind of slow a little bit.
How far in are you? Because it takes a couple episodes.
Like
Actually,
4
no,
episodes.
it takes one episode. The second episode has like tons of action.
I'm saying as far as shows that are in that vein, it's a little slow. I'm watching it because I like John Krasinski.
Okay.
And the guy that plays his boss, I don't know the actor's name, but he's been in a few other things that I like a lot as well. But I'm watching that on my own, and then my wife and I are watching what may be the best show on Amazon that I have ever seen, and it's a show that you wouldn't think is good, but it's gotten a lot of Emmy praise and critics praise. Is The Marvelous Miss Maisel.
I've heard great things about that show.
It is. I'm hooked. It's phenomenal. The girl that I don't know her name, but she looks like Evan Rachel Wood. She is fantastic. Like her, just the way that she plays with the other people. Tony Shalhoub is in it as well. The guy that played Monk. Remember the show Monk?
Yeah.
Matt? So he's in it as well, and him and her playing off each other is just fantastic. I recommend that show to anyone. Like, when you read the title, I thought it was a show for kids. It's definitely not a show for kids.
No.
Because it's called The Marvelous Miss Maisel. So I thought it was like some Mary Poppins crap. And we were going through like what to watch because we finished 13 Reasons Why. We finished which 13 Reasons Why I definitely picked up after the 8th episode. That was fantastic.
Yeah,
It was,
Lance and I were texting because I just watched that too, and I was texting him like, dude, this is boring. It is not.
Yeah.
I was not liking it, and then you were like, dude, wait until episode 8, and it got way good after that. I agree, but
yeah,
a show
I don't
shouldn't
think it
take
should
that
have been.
long.
Right. It shouldn't have been 13 episodes, which we'll talk a little bit later about how the length of some things really plays a role in how good something can be. And that was not a sexual thing. But 13 Reasons Why was pretty good after the 8th episode. We finished what was the other big one that just came out?
Titans, but I know you don't watch that.
I haven't watched that one. I don't remember. We've watched so many things recently. Oh, Handmaid's Tale. We finished that one recently too. But
nice.
You guys, what about Carnival Row?
I need to watch that one. That's the one with Orlando Bloom, right?
I watched the first episode. Did you watch it, Sam?
I'm 2 episodes in. It's a mix of A Midsummer Night's Dream, which is a Shakespeare play, and like Jack the Ripper. So
it's weird.
It's weird. It is weird.
And I don't dislike it. We watched the first episode on Labor Day, and then we just haven't gotten around to watching anymore. It's just, it wasn't bad, but it wasn't great.
It's weird.
It's a weird show.
Yeah, I see the ads for it on my Fire Stick, and I don't know. There's so many things to watch right now that we just haven't gotten into that one. And then I'm also reading Absolute Carnage from Marvel. Fantastic so far. Like, it's really good. One of the best things Marvel has put out in a long time. And then I'm going to start reading Power of X or House of X.
Nice. All right. This right here is for Sam. Just got to wait for it to load here.
Oh, by the way,
stupid ad.
By the way, what, Sam?
The actress's name for Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, her name is Rachel Brosnahan.
Yeah, was she in House of Cards or something?
She was in House of Cards. She met a kind of poor fate out in the desert.
Oh, that's her? It's Rachel from House of Cards?
Yeah.
Nice. All right, guys. All right.
It's phenomenal.
Sam is flushing. We are good to go now.
Yeah. That was a courtesy flush. That was a courtesy flush for you guys. I still got plenty more to go. There's plenty more where that came from.
Show has literally gone down.
I might replay that video a couple times.
Oh, man.
Well, as far as me, I also watched 13 Reasons Why season 3. I enjoyed it. But other than that, I haven't been doing too much. That's not true. I'm a liar. I finished Days Gone this last week, which is a PS4 game. That if you guys have a PS4 and you enjoy Walking Dead and you liked The Last of Us, you would like Days Gone. It's
better than what's that one? Dying Light.
I haven't played Dying Light. It's very different. It's not like that at all. It's an open world, third person game.
I bought Dying Light because I loved Last of Us, and Dying Light came out like really quickly after that.
Mm-hmm.
And it was getting all these rave reviews, and it's more of like parkour and stuff like that. So it's good to hear that Days Gone's not like that, because I've been meaning to pick that one up.
Yeah, Days Gone's fun. I mean, it's long. Not that you have to play the whole thing. It's just kind of fun shooting zombies. The reason I say it's like Walking Dead is because it's got like these settlements. It's got people versus people. It's got these weird factions. And then it's got the zombies, post-apocalyptic, which pretty much any zombie post-apocalyptic game is going to feel like The Walking Dead a little bit. But it's got that vibe. So like if you've wanted to play a video game that's like Walking Dead, Days Gone definitely has that. The reason I say it's like The Last of Us isn't because the story is amazing. It's not a bad story by any means, but The Last of Us is just top tier as far as video games are concerned. Like one of the best stories a video game has ever told, in my opinion. And I think
that's just that studio in general. I mean, because they did Uncharted as well, right?
Yeah.
And Uncharted is phenomenal.
Yeah, no, Naughty Dog, I agree. They're incredible. And this studio is fine, but it's like The Last of Us in the sense that it's got like crafting. So like you go around, you find rags and stuff, and you find sterilizer, you craft med kits. And
Dying Light was like that. Like you have to go pick up stuff. But Dying Light was first person. Hold on, I'm having issues with my screens here. Dying Light was first person, whereas Last of Us is third person, right? Yeah, and I don't know if I like that style of game in the first person mode, because then it just feels like
a shooter.
It feels like a shooter, and that's not why I play zombie games, just to go around killing zombies. Like zombie games kind of suck if there's no story.
Yeah, Absolute Geek says that Days Gone is very repetitive. That's very true. So I've heard, I think it was IGN described it as, if they could give a like 4-word review of Days Gone, they would say video game, the video game. because it totally is. It is very generic. It has very familiar mechanics, but they're done, like they're well done, they're polished, but there's like nothing revolutionary about it. You know what I mean? Like it's got very arcade style motorcycle riding. It's got very familiar third person shooting. It's got very familiar stealth mechanics. And it's very repetitive. It's got like 6 different mission styles, and it just kind of repeats those. You know, it's like go kill some ambushers, or go follow around these guys in hazmat suits, or go like very similar missions all the time, very repetitive, but it is fun. So I finished that. Took me about 60 hours. It's a long game.
Really?
Yeah, but it's fun. It's really fun. And so like, even if you only put 10 hours into it, you'd still have a good time. If you picked it up on sale, I think it'd be worth it. But if you're not going to play the whole thing, don't pay $60 for it. I've also watched Titans Season 2, Episode 1. Really liked it, but I don't like Bruce Wayne at all. What a terrible casting.
Really?
I think. I know some of the guys that are in the chat right now have watched Titans Season 2, so feel free to chime in here, because I cannot remember his name right now off the top of my head. He's
from Game of Thrones, right?
Yeah, he's Jorah Mormont in Game of Thrones. Why am I Jorah Mormont? Why am I forgetting his name? Ian Glenn. He is fine. Like he's great in Game of Thrones, but I just thought he was a really bad Bruce Wayne. Like he's really old and like frail looking. You know what? I'm gonna pull up a screenshot so I can show you guys.
Is he supposed to be playing?
He's Batman,
like an old Bruce Wayne.
He's supposed to be a little older, because we know that Dick in this is, sorry. So we'll make sure we give credit where credit's due here. The Wrap. I'm about to share a screen from the Wrap website. Can you guys see this?
No.
What did I do wrong? Application window. Oh, I didn't hit the share button. That would have helped. Can you guys see it now?
Yes.
So that's Ian Glenn. He's just older looking, and I guess we don't know entirely what they're trying to do yet, but we do know, based on the story of Titans and Titans Season 2, that this is a Batman that's still actively fighting bad guys, and like they literally say in the first episode of Titans that they can't get the Justice League because they're off on the other side of the world fighting another villain, or they don't say who, but they're off on the other side of the world doing something. So Batman is actively engaged with the Justice League, and it's this guy. This is a picture of him from Titans Season 2, Episode 1. I do not look at this and think, yeah, that guy could be beating the crap out of criminals.
He looks like Alfred.
Yes. I look at that and I'm like, he would be getting his butt kicked. Where do I stop sharing?
Whoa.
Sorry.
Infinity screen.
Yeah. So I just wasn't a fan of him. So yeah, what they say, yeah, he's really out of place. Absolutely agree. He's very out of place. Anyway, I also started playing.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I also just wanted to say two more things I was playing. Control, which is a game by Remedy. They made Quantum Break, Max Payne, Alan Wake. It's awesome. So good.
Yeah.
I'm only a few hours in, but it's you'd love it, Lance. At least I think you would.
Really?
Yeah, I think you would. And it's kind of like an X-Men type because you've got levitating superpowers and you can control people's minds, and it's like it almost feels like you're a mutant with a gun.
Is it third person?
Yeah, third person shooter style.
That's usually my first thing that I look at. I just don't like first person games.
Yeah, and the story's really cool. It's kind of trippy. And then Gears of War 5. So Gears 5 came out yesterday if you have Game Pass Ultimate, which I do. And so I've been playing a little bit of that. I'm about 3 hours into it.
Speaking of games, Max,
yeah,
you will be very proud of me. I just finished SpiderMan.
I am proud of you. That came out a year ago.
I haven't finished a game since Uncharted 4. I buy games and I never finish them. And I'm almost all the way done with all the side missions and collecting all this stuff. So I'm like 93% done with the entire game.
Holy crap. What's today? It's September 7th. It came out exactly a year ago today.
SpiderMan?
Yeah. And did you finish it today?
Fair, I finished it last week.
Oh, all right.
To be fair, though, I had it halfway done, and then I traded in my PlayStation for a PS4 Pro and lost all my stuff. So I had to start all over from the beginning.
The same thing happened to me because I didn't have PS4 Plus or PlayStation Plus. And yeah, I had a base PS4, and then last year around November time, I really wanted a Pro, and I went and bought it. And I lost all my save data because I didn't realize you had to have PS Plus to have the saves on the cloud. So yeah, what was it? Because I bought the Game of the Year edition or whatever, not Game of the Year, but the Mega edition of Horizon Zero Dawn, so I could play the DLC because it was on sale for $10 for the whole game. Well, I had already beat the game, and so I was going to log back in and just start playing the DLC because you basically have to beat the game to play the DLC because you have to be high level. Well, lost all my save data. So now if I want to play that DLC, I have to play a 30-hour campaign just to get to the DLC. And it's just disappointing.
I miss cheat codes.
You know what? Sometimes I wish that I could skip forward in a game. Like when you buy a movie, if I want to just go watch the last 10 minutes, I can. But you can't really do that with video games. And that's a lot more complicated in a game. It's not easy to do that. But sometimes it would be nice.
You can with Breath of the Wild. You can go straight to Hyrule Castle.
Yeah, but if you're under leveled, you're going to lose, right?
Well, not necessarily.
I guess if you're good enough.
Sam, have you played Spider-Man?
Nope. The last game I played was Pokemon Go.
Spider-Man is fantastic, man. Just the story and everything, and it's the Spider-Man movie that Sony wishes they could make.
Why don't they just make that movie?
Right. They should.
Spider-Man is really good, and I'm looking forward to the eventual sequel because it was a top-notch game. I'll definitely replay it when the next one comes out.
Yeah, there's a Game of the Year edition coming out or something like that.
Yeah, it just came out. Yeah, so if you haven't played it yet, I would buy that because it comes with all the DLC. I haven't bought the DLC because I don't want to pay $30 for it.
So the Game of the Year edition is only $19.99, right?
I thought it was $40. I saw it on the PlayStation Store for $40. Unless GameStop selling it for less.
I thought it was $19.99, but
I might be
I was
wrong.
thinking about going to pick it up just so I can get the DLC.
For $19.99, it'd be less. The DLC, I'm pretty sure, is $25 or $30 by itself.
Yeah, because I plan on buying the DLCs. Because there's a Silver Sable one. There's a Black Cat one, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah, no, they're interesting.
Did you see there's an after credits scene after the credits in that game?
Yeah, with Miles Morales?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was cool.
So they kind of did the Marvel thing in the video game too.
Yeah, they're setting it up, man. They're setting it up. Absolutely.
All right, so that's pretty much what I'm doing. So
nice. Well, let's move on to Fab or Flub. If you don't know what Fab or Flub is, it's a segment where we talk about some headlines and we discuss whether or not we think they are fabulous or flubulous. First one we're going to talk about tonight is that Haley Atwell, so Agent Carter in the MCU, has been cast in the next Mission Impossible movie.
But we don't know as what, right?
No, we don't. It was kind of told via a social media conversation. Like the director posted a picture of her and then she confirmed it.
And
she's a really good actor.
Team.
What was that?
Ahead.
Tom Cruise also did a post that said "Welcome to the team," and it had a picture of Haley Atwell.
Nice.
I'm just saying, if they're going to try to convince me that that's Tom Cruise's love interest, if they're going to try to convince me that her and Tom Cruise have a thing, then I call bullshit.
I don't know. I think they'd fit.
That's worse than Adam Sandler and his Kate Beckinsale and Click.
Well, she definitely was out of his league. That's true.
Every Adam Sandler movie's like that. But Tom Cruise is consistently like being paired up with like 25-year-old women. And
Haley Atwell is like only like probably 10 years within him.
She was born in 1982.
Really?
And he's pretty old.
All right, you're right.
Because I looked it up.
Yeah, she's 37. You're right, and he's like in his mid 50s.
Yeah.
All right. You win.
All right. Well, he's
20 years older than her.
She's probably going to be some femme fatale, you know.
Oh, she better be.
Who's dangerous, but you know, could she be a double agent a la Rebecca Ferguson? I doubt she's going to be the damsel in distress. That's not really the thing anymore.
No, and she
doesn't really have that look either, like damsel in distress look. I think like she looks like she can take care of herself.
For sure.
You know, I wouldn't buy that.
Yeah, my guess is femme fatale, double agent.
Yeah, no, she's going to kick butt. Absolutely. She's going to be awesome. Grizzle Geek says Fab, anything Haley. So they're on board. I say Fab as well. I'm down.
She is very attractive, so I say Fab.
Yeah, I agree. Fab. Let's do it.
Nice.
So she's also going to be in the What If series, right?
Yeah,
as Captain America.
Yeah, as Peggy Carter. Captain Britain, I think was what they said.
Oh, is it Captain Britain?
I think so.
Oh yeah, she is British in the show, isn't she?
Yeah.
And in real life.
Peggy.
And in real life, yes.
Thanks, Sam.
We have a
Tom
Captain
Holland's
Obvious.
British too.
We have a Captain Awesome. Should Sam be Captain Obvious? All right. Well, let's move on to our next one. Sony is developing at least 5 or 6 television shows within the Spider-Man universe. Flub for me. I don't want to see Sony do anything with Spider-Man. I just want him freaking with Disney. Okay, I take it back. Sony did a great job on the video game. You can keep doing that. And if you want to, and if you want to keep doing Into the Spider-Verse stuff, that's fine. But as far as like live action movie and TV, just sell them for $7 trillion back to Disney. They'll buy it. It's all good.
They just don't get it. They don't. So Insomniac is it Insomniac?
That did the game,
Max?
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sony didn't really have any like involvement with the story of that. That was Insomniac. Like they had their own writers and everything. They developed this game. They just got the rights to make this game because back then they weren't owned by Sony, right? So they were making this game.
I'm sure Sony was involved to some degree, but yes, Insomniac.
But not like how they are with the movie.
I'm not sure, but you might be right.
And like was it Phil Lord and Chris Miller that did Into the Spider-Verse?
I think so.
Yeah, that sounds right.
They have been known to make the movies that they want as well. So I'm sure they wouldn't have made that movie if they didn't get to have their own voice, which they were the ones that walked away from Solo, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, because Disney was trying to tell them what to do. So we know that they have a vision and they're going to execute that vision, right? But with the live action movies, Sony and Kevin Feige made the last two Spider-Mans. It was his vision, right? But Sony with Amazing Spider-Man and with Spider-Man 3 featuring Tobey Maguire, they stuck their hands in there and they turned out to be piles of garbage, you know? And I just don't have faith that they're going to be able to execute this in a way that appeases fans.
I don't either. And let's just add on to this another headline. We'll just keep it in the same category. A Sony exec, and I think it might have even been the president, said this past week that Sony being in the MCU is off the table for now. So Matt last week on our show was saying that he's coming back and we're all going to be eating crow. And currently, Matt, you are eating the crow.
Matt and I talked on the phone today. And apparently I didn't get a chance to listen to their show yet from last night. So if you haven't listened to Absolute Geek from last night, listen to it. But apparently there was a very spirited conversation between him and Corbin about the status of the Spider-Man agreement and lack of agreement and things like that. And Matt is under the belief that this is all a show. This is all kind of Sony and Disney trying to just posture themselves, and we'll get Spider-Man back in the MCU. So he's holding true to his ground.
I hope you are right, sir. Oh, Absolute Geek says, no, sir, that is an incorrect statement. Well, correct us. Tell us what's true. Yeah, I hope that Spider-Man comes back, but based on everything we're hearing, it's not happening, which is a flub for sure.
Yeah, and I'm a little confused too, because reports for the last couple of years have been that Disney owns the sole rights to Spider-Man on television, right? Mm-hmm. Which is why they're able to make these cartoon shows and do all these things on TV. So I don't understand how Sony is making TV shows. You know, I don't understand if there's no agreement with Disney. But something is weird about this whole thing. We're not being told everything. I don't understand what's going on. Sony sold the rights for television back to Disney in 2009. So I don't understand. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. I do want to know, Mike, if you're still listening from Grizzled Geek, he says, don't worry. When Amazon buys Sony movie division, Marvel gets Spider-Man rights back.
Yes, so Disney, so it's baked into the contract when Sony bought Spider-Man that if Sony sells their film studio, Spider-Man rights revert back to Marvel.
Okay, and is there some rumor out there that Amazon's going to be buying Sony's movie division?
There is. So there was a rumor that Disney was going to buy Sony's movie division last year. There's a rumor about Amazon. Sony has had a lot of movies that have kind of flamed out in the last couple of years. If you look back at what Sony has released, they haven't had a lot of success, with the exception of some films like Into the Spiderverse and what Marvel has done with Spider-Man as well. There's a couple shows that Sony has, but for the most part, Sony has been less successful than even Fox was.
Okay.
And it says, yes, and the rumor caused stock to go up, is what Grizzle Geek just said.
Wow. I hadn't heard that rumor.
And here's the thing, like Disney, it'll never go through. If Disney tries to buy Sony, it won't get approved.
No, I don't want Disney to own Sony. I much prefer this idea of Amazon buying them out. I just want Disney to have Spider-Man. I don't want them to own Sony. Disney owns enough.
So there is also a rumor that Apple could be buying Sony as well. So, but it won't get approved. If Disney tries to make a play for another big studio, especially one of the big I don't know, what would it be? Big three, Sam?
Yeah, it's definitely one of the biggest three.
So there's Disney,
Warner Brothers, Sony, Columbia.
And Columbia Pictures is owned by Sony, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah, so I mean, they're all owned by somebody. I think MGM would be considered one, maybe. I don't know. They're all owned by somebody, but
Disney, WB, and Sony are definitely the biggest.
Yeah, and there's Lionsgate. Lionsgate's a big company.
Yeah.
Sure. But if Disney tries to buy another one of the big ones, it will not go past the Trade Commission.
You're probably right.
Yeah, that sounds right.
You know, because Fox was even a battle that took a year and a half.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I don't want them to own everything. Competition is good. But like, yeah, looking at some of the movies this year, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was Sony. We've got the Angry Birds, Men in Black, Brightburn, Jumanji, Bad Boys for Life, Little Women,
Jumanji's a success.
Jumanji is. Zombieland was a success. Bad Boys was successful. Men in Black has been. The last one wasn't. Brightburn was kind of a flop.
But Brightburn had a very small budget.
Yeah, A Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood with Tom Hanks. That one looks good. That's Sony. So yeah, there's a ton of Sony movies that have been coming out.
Yeah, it's just
only half of them have been good.
And Mike is absolutely right from Grizzle Geek. He says the Sony movie division is probably their least profitable division within Sony. Because if you think about it, when you think of Sony, you're thinking TVs and cell phones and appliances, or not appliances, that's Samsung, but TVs and electronics of that nature. Yeah. And movie or the PlayStation or video games or things like that, movies is just not bread and butter for them, you know?
Yeah. What do you think about all this, Sam? You've been kind of quiet.
Okay, so let's talk about Sony's track record with the Spider-Man movies. You've got in the most recent, you've got Venom. You've got the 2 Spider-Man movies. And the problem is that the Spider-Man movies, although they were very successful, they were a partnership with Marvel and Disney Studios. So we have to kind of take those off the table and say, what has Sony done with the Spider-Man properties on their own? Venom was, it was fun. There were a lot of parts of it that were fun. But by and large, I think they missed the mark. They could have done a whole lot better with it. Then you've also got the Amazing Spider-Man movies. The first one was, it wasn't great, but it had promise. It had a lot of promise. And then the second one, it was just, what a mess. What a mess it was. Like they were trying to set up 100 different storylines, and it was just a storytelling mess. There were so many different threads going back and forth.
The Amazing Spider-Man 2?
Yeah, and then you've got the TV rights are owned by Sony. Disney doesn't own the TV rights. It is Sony's baby. They've had them for a long time. They acquired the TV rights at the same time they acquired the movie rights. So any animation that you're seeing is a partnership between Marvel and Sony Pictures.
Yeah.
They have had a lot of successful animated series. Spectacular Spider-Man was fantastic. Ultimate Spider-Man was a lot of fun as well. And that one featured the Avengers, and it was like Spider-Man going out and meeting up with the Avengers and the new Avengers, and it had characters like Nova, and Iron Man made appearances. So it was a lot of fun. There were a lot of good things about it, but it's an animated series. It's not one of these, and it aired on Disney XD, which is like a premium cable network. So it wasn't necessarily intended to draw a huge audience. So if Sony is planning to do TV series based on Spider-Man characters, and they're not necessarily going to be Spider-Man, they're going to be Spider-Man adjacent, they've really got to do their homework. And it's not hard to come up with a compelling story from the Spider-Man universe. There's so many good characters there. Into the Spider-Verse showed that Sony can do something right with Spider-Man. Into the Spider-Verse was a spectacular movie. No pun intended there, but they did great things with that. And what they did is they were able to showcase a wide variety so that you didn't get too bogged down with one character in particular, although Miles Morales was the guy who was driving the film. And he's kind of a new character on the block, and people were able to get to know that character, and it wasn't just like a rehash of the old Spider-Man origin story. So they've shown that they can do things right, but they can't just pick up this old formula and try and make it like they always have. They've got to take it somewhere new.
Right.
I don't think it's the best thing that they've decided to just cease negotiations with Disney. But to be fair to Sony, there is a lot of money on the table to be made, and Disney is asking for a big share of the pie. Even though Disney has kind of the creative direction going with the Marvel Universe and with Spider-Man, Sony does own the rights, and it is it's their prerogative to share this or not. And if Disney is asking for too big of a piece, then Sony's got to do what they've got to do to protect their interests.
But
no, I agree with that.
Here's the thing: like Disney's asking for more, but they're also offering to put in the same amount. So like they want 50% of the profits, but they also said that they would put 50% of the production costs in. So it's not like we're going to pay the same amount that we are now, but we want more back. Like they want a bigger return. No, they just want to put more stake in it and get more out. So they want to gamble more money in these things. I'm looking at Sony Pictures and their highest grossing movies they've ever had. And just within the top 10, right? Number 1 is Far From Home. Number 2 is Skyfall. So that's a franchise movie. That's James Bond. 3 is Jumanji. We have another Spider-Man movie, Spider-Man 3. Then we have Spider-Man Homecoming, another James Bond movie, Venom, Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, and Da Vinci Code. And then Amazing Spider-Man coming in at 11. But of their top 10, 60% of it is Spider-Man movies. And they don't have anything else to, and if they piss off the Marvel fans and Marvel fans stop going to see Spider-Man movies, Sony's nothing at that point, right? And then if you look at the flops that they've had recently, because Matt said something on here saying Sony makes good movies, just piss poor Spider-Man, is what he said on the chat. But if you look at the flops that they've had in recent memory, a lot of money has gone into some of these movies. The Fifth Wave, Aloha with Bradley Cooper and Emma Stone, and Billy Lynn's Long Halftime Walk, which was supposed to be their big award movie that really did nothing in the box office. Chappie, Concussion, which was a flop about the NFL concussions. Dark Tower, Emoji Movie, which was met with a lot of criticism. The Ghostbusters,
because it was garbage.
Yeah, it was garbage. The female adaptation of
Emoji Movie and Ghostbusters.
Then you're getting into Grimsby, that's the one with Sacha Baron Cohen. Grimsby, which flopped, badly flopped. Dante's Inferno from the Da Vinci Code series. Life, which I liked. Life.
That's not Dante's Inferno. That's just Inferno. I
said it wrong at first.
Okay.
And The Magnificent Seven, The Night Before, Passengers, Pixels, which was a huge flop and cost a ton of money, and arguably kind of derailed Adam Sandler's career because after that he went to Netflix, right, and tried to rebuild his career.
His career was dying before that, but yeah.
But before Pixels, he was still having some hits.
I can't remember a hit since like
all right, hang on,
Lance.
Let's go back to your argument about Disney putting in half of the production costs. The production cost for Far From Home was $160 million. $160 million, and it's grossed $1.2 billion. Okay, so Yeah, they would have to put up 50% of those production costs, but it's a pittance compared to what they're stand to gain. And I don't think Sony has any problem putting up the full production costs when they stand to gain billions of dollars in return. So it is largely a cash grab. So in Sony's defense, I get where they're coming from. As a fan of Marvel and the MCU, especially this guy, Thor, I want to see more Spider-Man team-ups, obviously. But the lawyer in me, the businessman, says Sony's got to protect theirs, you know?
But here's
that's a fair point. I mean, I'm sorry, I'm just going to real quick. You're right. If it's $160 million in costs, Disney does 80, Sony does 80, but now you have over $800 million in profit. Now they're sharing that. That's a good point. That's a lot of money left on the table for Sony.
But here's the thing, and I'll counter that argument. The only reason that it did as well as it did is because it was the movie following Endgame, which was Disney's.
And it's because Grizzle Geek says because Feige was involved. And he's right. Feige and Marvel made it good. You're right. You're absolutely
right. Before Spider-Man made $1.1 billion in the worldwide box office, their next biggest hit was Spider-Man 3, which derailed that franchise, right? It made $894 million.
Yeah, that's a lot of money, man. That's a lot of money.
But it derailed the franchise. Sam Raimi was supposed to come back and do a Spider-Man 4, and it derailed the entire franchise because they also put in let me see the production cost. The production cost for that was astounding how big the production cost was for that, because the special effects that went into Spider-Man 3 far outweighed the special effects that went into Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2. And then with The Amazing Spider-Man and The Amazing Spider-Man 2, they $757 million and $708 million in the worldwide box office. But you also got to consider domestic box office, where The Amazing Spider-Man 2 only made $202 million. And by domestic box office standards, that's not a success.
Okay, but let's look at Venom, which was, by all measures, at best, it was an okay movie, right? They put in a budget of $116 million, and the return was $856 million. That's a bomb. That's the Spider-Man bomb.
But
it's $200 million, but they still more than quintupled their outlay. So
Venom did not bomb.
To hold on to these.
I'm not saying Venom bombed. What I'm saying though is that for Spider-Man to hit 1.1 billion, that's 300 million difference, right, between the two. That 300 million is Disney. Like, they're the reason that it did that.
Well, again, as a fan, I want to see Spider-Man continue with the MCU. But let's not forget that the MCU is pretty much over, right? We're starting a brand new MCU at this point. I mean, it's a continuation, but they're bringing in all these new characters, and who knows what it's really going to end up looking like in 4 or 5 years? We don't know.
But Spider-Man was
and hopefully Spider-Man is the leader of that squad. But if he's not, I mean, there's lots of people who could be that leader. I'm gunning for the son of Odin, but we'll see what happens.
But they kind of used Far From Home. They postured Far From Home as kind of a bridge between the old MCU and the new MCU. And now we were kind of left with an open-ended story in Far From Home, where Iron Man, the Happy and was heavily involved in the story going forward, and the absence of Iron Man and how that affects Peter Parker going into the future. And now we're not going to get any of that because Happy can't appear anymore. No mention of Spider-Man. I just think it's short-sighted on Sony's part, because they are going to take a financial hit from Spider-Man. Spider-Man will not hit $1.1 billion again.
Yeah, but I don't think that's fair to consider that a financial hit when they're still quintupling their investment. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, it would be nice to have that extra $200 or $300 million, but we're still making money hand over fist. So it is what it is.
It's still more money than they'd make splitting the profits 50-50.
Right.
So
but
so
they
let's move on.
But that could sustain. That could sustain. Let's say what happens when they come out with 3 or 4 duds, and then it's not making $800 million.
Well,
yeah,
Marvel has a proven track record. Sony does not.
Let's move on, because we said we were going to try to keep the show to an hour. We got 20 minutes until we're at an hour. We were going to talk about reshoots, but let's just move on to It Chapter 2. So, as usual, full spoilers. We're going to talk full spoilers for It Chapter 2. So, with that said, let's get into it.
All right.
Let's talk about It Chapter 2. Who wants to start?
So, who saw it most recent?
I saw it on Thursday night.
So did I.
So I saw it yesterday morning at 11:45 in the morning, and damn, it was long. It was really long, and it didn't need to be that long at all.
No, there was like a good hour that was pointless to me. Like when it went to each individual character and saw them getting scared, it just I didn't see much added value in that.
And here's the thing: a lot of people are saying that the first chapter was better than this, right?
I think it was by a lot.
By a lot, right? First chapter was, so, as far as horror movies are concerned, was kind of groundbreaking as far as the success that it had and the way people reacted to it and stuff. I mean, typical movies like that have cheap jumping, like The Grudge. I always use The Grudge as an example. It has cheap thrills to get you to jump out of your seat, right? Mm-hmm. It was like that, but they the fact of the matter that it was still a good movie, but yet it had these cheap thrills, like him coming out of the projector screen and things like that, was kind of groundbreaking, right? They gave it a good story, but still made you jump out of your seat at times.
Mm-hmm. But not this too much. That's why I liked it. Is that there wasn't just a ton of jump scares. There were some, but it wasn't that bad.
And this one was just filled with them, I felt like.
Yeah, let's talk about the jump scare formula. So they start, your typical jump scare is the music builds up, the tension, and then it zooms in and something bad happens, right? But with It Chapter 2, the music builds up, he's going to reach for the curtain, pulls the curtain away, there's nothing there. And then he turns around, monster gets him, right?
Right.
Every single jump scare was built that same way. It was a false alarm followed by immediate attack. Yeah,
like when he's sitting on the park bench, Richie, when he's sitting on the park bench and he's thinking back, and the Paul Bunyan statue's there, and the music's all ominous and it's all quiet, and he looks over and Paul Bunyan's not on the thing, right? That's where the jump should be, right? And then he looks over and Paul Bunyan's there, ready to eat his face, It just, and I actually jumped at that part.
Right? There were a few that made me jump.
But it just seemed kind of cheap, and I don't know. The performances I thought were good. I didn't think anybody did a bad job per se. I thought Eddie, the adult who played Eddie, I didn't so much like him.
I hated him until the end. I thought he was awful. Not as the actor. I just thought, I was like, he didn't grow. He didn't grow at all. He was still this scared little kid, but he was almost 40 years old.
Yeah, and in It Chapter 2, it shows him kind of evolving, or It Chapter 1, it shows him evolving at the end.
Yeah, he's getting better. I don't know. I didn't like him.
And that may just be a testament of how good. I don't know what that kid's name is, the kid from Shazam.
Oh, he did awesome.
Oh, yeah.
But that might just be a testament of how good he is. Those kids were phenomenal.
By the way, he grew 2 feet in the last 2 years. Because in It Chapter 1, he was so short.
Yeah.
And they tried
did a good job of making him look not aged.
They tried. They did different camera angles, and it was pretty good. But because Shazam came out earlier this year, and we see how tall he is in that, it's the same kid. They were probably shot around the same time. He's grown a lot. And then you can't avoid that. It is what it is.
Well, in Stranger Things, the kid from Stranger Things, his name escapes me right now.
Finn Wolfhard.
Finn Wolfhard, thank you. they made him look like he hadn't aged a day.
They
either.
did good. Yeah, they did good.
Yeah, they did good.
a lot good.
Yeah,
like let's
they
do
did
that.
a lot
Let's talk first about what we really liked about the
Bill
movie.
Hader. Bill Hader.
Yeah, the casting in general, I think, was really good. I didn't like the character of Eddie. The casting was, I think, very well done. But Bill Hader, yeah, he was awesome. Jessica Chastain was great. James McAvoy was also. He's always. I'll watch anything with him.
I
He's so
see.
good.
I was just gonna say James McAvoy disappointed me.
Really, I thought he was great. I thought the adult casts were awesome.
You know,
The kid-
hang on. After James McAvoy was snubbed for Split and Glass, playing 27 different characters, you know, he should have won 27 different Oscars for his performance in Split.
For real though.
Yeah, he was phenomenal.
Maybe in this, because he's just playing one character, you might think he's phoning it in.
Well, see, and James McAvoy, I typically do like him in things he ends. I actually liked him as Professor X, and when they casted him, I was not a fan. But I liked him when he was Professor X. In fact, he's one of the brighter parts of the new iteration of those X-Men movies, right? But in this, there was something about when he was stuttering that was bothering me.
Really? I thought that was great.
The kid did it better. The kid did it better. The kid was more believable, and I don't know if it's because he actually has a stutter or what. But when James McAvoy did it, and maybe it's because I've heard James McAvoy previously not have a stutter, so I was having a hard time getting past that. But it just, I don't know.
And I disagree with you wholeheartedly. I thought he did a great job on the stutter.
Yeah, I'm with you, Max.
Yeah, I wasn't. I didn't believe it.
Man, I totally did.
And then the relationship.
Didn't he have a character in Split that had a stutter?
No,
there was.
He had the kid, the 9-year-old kid who had kind of a speech impediment.
Yeah.
Etc.
Etc. That's right.
His relationship with Jessica Chastain too seemed to be ramping up, and then all of a sudden it was non-existent. Like, I didn't think that their connection was as good as it should have been. And correct me if I'm wrong, it's been years since I've seen the original It with Tim Curry, but I thought the two of them were married and got divorced. And in this, she's married to somebody else and he's married to somebody else.
I don't know.
I never saw it.
But it just seemed like they were going to get together. And meanwhile, you're like, oh, but I want her to be with, you know, the chubby kid. I don't remember his name. The architect.
Ben.
Is it Ben? I thought the main one was Ben. Is the chubby kid Ben?
Yeah, that's Ben.
Okay. So you want her to end up with Ben. For 2 movies, you want her to end up with Ben. But they're constantly pushing this. Bill is the older kid's name, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
They're constantly pushing this relationship between Bev and Bill, and then all of a sudden it's like just a light switch went off, and then she's with Ben.
Yeah, it's when they kiss in the hotel.
That was weird.
They kiss.
Yeah, it was weird.
They're like, okay, that wasn't a good kiss. That's not really for us. That was the moment where they decided they weren't going to do it.
But see, I didn't get the vibe that they thought it was a bad kiss, because they were showing flashbacks from when they were kids, showing how good that kiss was, and then they're showing this kiss, and she's doing kind of the same things with her hands and stuff like that. Like, there did seem to be passion in it, and then they pull away, and then it's never addressed ever again.
Well,
until he's in the lake and he sees Ben and Bev kissing, and he looks over like, oh, okay, and then swims away.
Yeah, let's circle back a little bit, because we started talking about things we liked, and then we got right back into things we didn't. So let's talk about some stuff that we liked.
Okay, still eager to talk about Bill Hader's performance. He was, he's the guy who.
Oh my gosh.
He's the guy. Pardon my interruption. He's the guy who still is. He's looking on the bright side. He's trying to bring the lightheartedness. He even says it in the movie. I think the line was something like "F me for trying to bring a little levity to this thing."
Yeah.
And, that scene in the underground clubhouse was so dynamite, where he's he's hiding in the corner, and he comes out. He does. He's like, he does the dance, and he's like, remember, he does the thing, and he's like, whatever, you know.
No, yeah, Bill Hader was fantastic.
He was phenomenal.
Perfect.
And he was actually when we did the fan cast, Max, he was my number one pick.
Mm-hmm.
Bill Hader is an underrated actor. I don't know if anybody's seen the show he's in, Barry. He's phenomenal, and he doesn't get enough credit, and it's probably because he comes from SNL. But if you think about when he was in SNL too, as Stefan and stuff like that, like his roles were some of the most memorable roles in SNL's history.
I think we talked about this before, but comedic actors generally make some of the best dramatic actors.
But he's not even playing a dramatic role in this movie.
But he has some elements of drama.
Yeah.
He was the best cast of the entire thing. And I think that Finn Wolfhard, right? That's how you say it?
Yes.
The kid.
Yes.
He did such a good job too at establishing that character, and Bill Hader just did such a good job at portraying that same character but as an adult. And
yes,
it was, the two together were just fantastic, and they complemented each other extremely well. So I loved that.
They probably complemented each other the best out of any of the kid adult.
I'd agree with that. Yeah.
I thought Jessica Chastain did a good job. I did like her, and I thought Ben. I don't know who that guy is, but he's kind of looks like a poor man's Chris Pratt, but
more attractive.
He was the Beast in CW's Beauty and the Beast.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought he did very well. He did very well.
I agree.
And then the one that I think kind of gets lost in the shuffle a little bit was Henry Bowers, the guy that escapes the mental institution. Stabs Eddie in the cheek. Max.
Yeah. No, I'm trying to look him up on IMDb.
I thought he did a really good job too, and the kid did a good job. But like that one seemed to be a seamless transition as well. When the balloon comes up and he's sitting in the mental institution, he sees the balloon, he starts freaking out like with pure joy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
At the idea that he's going to get to kill these kids. You know,
he did fantastic.
I've seen that guy in other things, and I can't place it. But all in all, this is what I would say about it. A few strong performances. Bill Skarsgård is always good. I mean, he has just a way of being creepy, right?
Mm-hmm.
The movie was far too long. The movie was far too long, and the ending was weak.
Yeah,
the ending is weak because the storybook ending in Stephen King's book is weak. You've got this monster, and the monster doesn't exactly make a whole lot of sense, right? He eats some kids, but these kids he terrorizes, and he could kill them at any time, but he chooses to just tease them. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. He wants to.
Right. He doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
And so in the end, he just lets them. He's essentially just letting them kill him. Spoiler alert. Sorry about that. He just decides that he's done, I guess. It doesn't make a lot of sense, but in order for there to be both the moral victory and the overall physical victory, I guess it's got to happen.
And see, I kind of feel like they knew the ending was weak. The people that created this movie and Stephen King himself, because they constantly make references about James McAvoy not being able to write good endings. And then it turns out this movie doesn't have a good ending. and Stephen King's book did not have a good ending. Like the whole time in the movie, I was like, oh, this ending's going to disappoint me. Like they're setting me up with the assumption that I'm going to be disappointed, because why would they reference it so many times?
It was weird.
I felt like it was an inside joke. I felt like it was an inside joke. Like, oh, this guy has crappy endings. So does this movie. Haha, suckers. Give us your money.
So I want to ask you something. I don't know how recently you saw the first one. I watched it this past week to get ready for it, Chapter 2. I don't recall them ever using the name Pennywise in that movie. And yet, Chapter 2 comes around, and they use the name Pennywise all the time, and they never explain how they learned it.
Well, they didn't use it all the time.
He says to Georgie.
They used it several times.
Beverly says it a couple times. I did notice that she said it a couple times, but no, I don't think anybody else said it.
And now that I say that, maybe here's the argument for how, because she's the first one that says Pennywise. She says it. Maybe because at the end of the first one, she was like sucked into his dimension type thing. Maybe that's how she learned his name.
It says she has an attachment because she's able to see their futures, right?
So maybe that's what it is. Because when I watched it again, I never heard them use the name Pennywise, and I was watching out for it because I watched the trailer. And I was like, Pennywise, I don't remember them saying that in the actual movie. And so as I watched it again, I was listening and I never heard it. So I just
he says it to Georgie in the drain. He says, I'm Pennywise, the dancing clown.
Yeah,
now Georgie, we're not strangers.
Losers Club. He doesn't have the losers.
That's what I meant.
And then when he's dancing in that thing under the store when his head's staying still and he's kind of dancing, like the creepy part, the side of the thing says Pennywise the clown.
Well, an Absolute Geek says that Pennywise says it to the little kid, and I think that's what we're saying is Georgie the little kid, but he wasn't in the Losers Club, so he never, from what I remember, he doesn't ever say it to the actual.
Well, and I think that happens because with Bev being sucked into the light.
I think that's good enough. That gives me an explanation.
Yeah. But overall, I was disappointed. I mean, I've been looking forward to this movie since the first one came out. We did a fan casting for the second one right away because I was so excited.
Yeah, and you got 3 of them right. You said, I'm pretty sure you said James McAvoy. You said Bill Hader. I know that, and I know you said Jessica Chastain.
Yep.
I know you said at least 2 of those.
And then the other ones they picked.
You wanted Chris Pratt for Ben, which is funny that you called the guy they cast poor man's Chris Pratt, because I actually see what you mean. They look similar.
They can't pay.
He's like a cross.
7 actors big money.
Yeah, that guy's like a cross between Chris Pratt and Taylor Lautner. I was looking at him. I'm like, he looks like that Taylor Lautner kid.
He's a better actor than Taylor Lautner. Let's at least give him that.
Oh yeah.
He did great, and I was really glad that he and Bev ended up together. That was nice.
But I did get a few of them right. I liked the scene where it shows when Bev is in her old house and the old lady's there, and it kind of flashes back a little bit, and she sees Bill Skarsgård there with no makeup and kind of putting the paint on his face and everything. Like, I thought Bill Skarsgård did a really good job right there.
Oh, yeah. He did.
He was menacing.
I watched that part and I'm like, cast him as the Joker.
Yeah.
Hey, that's a good idea.
Yeah, but I don't know if he wants to play another clown.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
You don't want to be typecast, but I don't know. It was just too long. I don't understand why it had to be 3 hours. Like, even Endgame was too long, and Endgame still had stuff to keep you entertained for 3 hours, right?
Yeah,
this was almost as long as Endgame.
When a movie's this long, I feel like the second act suffers, at least with those two. Because Endgame, the first time I saw it, I was like, man, this is kind of dragging. At least for me, it was in the second act. And then that's how I felt in it as well. Like, the second act, it was just kind of like all these scares for each individual person. And I just kind of was a little bored with that. And then it ramped up at the end, and it still wasn't a great ending, but it was at least more exciting. So, yeah, I'm with you.
I felt like when they go off on their own separate ways and they're having their own little journeys, their spirit walks or whatever you could call them. I felt like Eddie's was too long. I actually felt like Bill Hader's version was too long with the arcade and everything like that. And then James McAvoy has a moment of craziness with that kid on the skateboard and stuff like that. And then you think the token is the bike, but it's not. Like, we didn't need the bike scene and the special appearance by Stephen King as the store owner. Like, I just felt like there was.
I didn't mind that. I liked the bike. That didn't bother me. But
it was just too long. It was too long.
Here was an issue I had, and this may just be, again, me not understanding something. I was super confused by the timeline of it all. Like, they'd flash back, and in the flashbacks, they'd see Pennywise. When did that happen?
It happened after they beat him the first time.
So then, weird.
Wait, I don't understand what part you're talking about.
So like whenever they would do each person's like scare on their journey, they did a flashback as well. And the flashbacks were as when they were kids, and I just couldn't figure out what those were from. And Sam is saying it's after they thought they defeated or killed Pennywise the first time. That's what wasn't clear to me, because like they made reference to thinking he was dead, but then he visited them. So how did they think he was dead?
It wasn't after. So they set it up perfectly. They say we don't remember everything. So you're basically seeing It Chapter 1 missing pieces that they had forgotten about. Those scenes when they go off on their spirit walks, because Bill even says, no, we weren't together the whole time, because they say we have to go find our tokens, but we were together the whole time, so why can't we stick together now? And he goes, no, we weren't together the whole time. And then it shows a scene with Bill punching Richie, and they all split.
Yeah,
right?
that all happened after they beat him the first time. All that happened after they beat him the first time.
When Bill punches him in the face?
Yep.
That's not when they go into the thing and he crawls and he gets stabbed with the pipe, right?
So
no, it is. He gets stabbed with the pipe, and then later in the movie is when he crawls into the well and his face is all splitting apart and stuff. Right?
All of the childhood scenes in It Chapter 2 take place after the end of It Chapter 1.
No. Because those scenes when they're on their self is when Richie gets punched in the face, and that's before they beat him at the end of the movie.
He says,
because you remember from It Chapter 1, Richie is yelling at Bill, and Richie's saying, but Georgie's dead, and then Bill punches him in the face. They split up, and then later in that movie, Richie comes back to the house to help Bill. They reconcile, and then they go into the house and fight It. In that period, when Richie leaves and Richie comes back, is when those solo missions happen. It references that in the movie because that's when Bill says we weren't together the whole time.
Sounds like I'll need to rewatch this, because
I'm not.
It wasn't clear to me.
Or not.
It was too long. It was too long, but.
Well, let's go ahead and give our ratings then. So, Lance, you've been very vocal. I'll let you go first.
2 cushions and a throw pillow.
Okay.
Which is a major defect, because the last movie I think got 4 cushions and a throw pillow.
Yeah, the last one was awesome.
Shows you how different of opinion I have between the 2 movies.
Well, what about you, Sam?
I gave it a 3 out of 5. As far as scenes that they could have cut, there was one scene that didn't need to be in it at all, which was the girl with the facial birthmark on it. She has no attachment to any of the characters, and her demise has no impact on the storyline whatsoever. And
they never reference it again.
Never reference it. There's no reason why it had to happen. It just happens. It's a great jump scare, but as far as the overall storyline, it was 5 minutes that they didn't need to be in that movie.
They could have, because they show her initially in the beginning of the movie at some point, I don't remember where. And they could have later in the movie just showed a wanted poster with her face on it. And that would have done the same thing to the story that this did. Nothing, right? They could have just shown a wanted picture and it shows, oh yeah, Pennywise is killing people again.
But I will say that I really enjoyed the flashbacks, because what it's trying to set up is that each of them is dealing with their own personal horror, right? You have Beverly, she's got her tragic history of abuse. You've got Bill, who's got this incredible guilt that he's dealing with all the time. Richie is dealing with the fear of coming out. The chubby kid, his name escaped me. Ben. He's dealing with the loneliness and the insecurity that comes with being overweight. Eddie is a hypochondriac, and then of course the Stan, who never makes it, he's just terrified of his own weakness. And so each of them is dealing with their own thing, and then Pennywise is coming in and amplifying it. And
what would you say, Mike? You didn't touch on Mike.
Mike is dealing with the fact that he feels like he's the reason his parents are dead.
Yeah, he's survivor's guilt.
Yeah.
And he even sees Pennywise alters a newspaper article showing 2 crackheads die in a fire, and then later at the end of the movie, he looks at that same article and it says 2 people dead in a fire. Like, it changes the headline. Right. So this headline he's been looking at speaks disparagingly of his parents, and then later in the movie, it's just a normal headline.
Right. So I liked going through that kind of metaphor period where you're examining true life horrors and comparing them to this horror movie, the trope and the jump scares, and of course the insane grandma naked lady running through the apartment. Oh my gosh, that's like
that was nuts.
That's gonna stay with me for a long time. And then they had to bring her back in the final act. I was like, oh my gosh, I cannot take this. Once was enough. I don't need any more.
That was nuts, dude, because they show bits of that scene in the trailer. And I was just assuming that she was going to come out naked, but she's like an 8-foot tall woman, skinny and stuff. And that scene was nuts, dude. It made me jump.
Yeah,
that was creepy. That was creepy. Kind of reminded me of some stuff in The Witcher 3, actually. They have like bad guys you fight that are like tall, naked old lady monster looking things.
Really?
Yeah.
I did feel it was long, but for me, I really enjoyed the scenes that made it so long. So I'm trying to think what scenes I would cut out. I mean, the Stephen King cameo was superfluous, but it's Stephen King, so it's like having Stan Lee show up in his cameos. Are you going to cut Stephen King out of his own story? I don't think so. I think
he's never shown up in his movies before, right?
He shows up.
That's not true. He's shown up in lots of them.
Yeah. Really? Maybe it's been a while since I've watched.
I was reading an article on this today. He doesn't show up in all of them, but he shows up in some, and he believes that he's a curse because a lot of the ones he's shown up in have bombed.
Yeah.
And then look at this one.
Well, I don't know.
They're already saying no. They're saying it's tracking to do worse than the first one.
So that doesn't make it a bomb.
Yeah, true.
Well, yeah, but I mean, normally
ideally you want the sequel to do
bombing if it doesn't make as much or more than the first one. I mean, it's not a bomb; it's still going to make a lot of money. It
did feel long. When we were going into the second act, I turned to my buddy in the theater. And I was like, "When is this movie going to end?" There was a lot of those, real slow build up to the fake out scare, and then the real scare comes in from the side. So there was a lot of those. They probably could have sped those up by quite a bit. And then the final act, there was a lot of cat and mouse going on, and they could have cut out a lot of that cat and mouse stuff. The Richie and Eddie scene was just pure comic relief. And it was a lot of fun. I did enjoy it, but it didn't add anything to the story.
Oh, the scary, not scary, super scary.
Doors.
I do have to say, though, I was appreciative of Bill Hader's emotion when Eddie ultimately dies, right? And they have to leave him in the cage in the cave, and it shows how Richie actually felt about Eddie. I thought that was a very powerful moment. When he's sitting in the lake and they all kind of hug Richie. I thought it was very good.
I thought it was really good too, and maybe I'm just dense, but I didn't realize it was anything more than just like friend love. I mean, I knew they were talking about Bill Hader's character being gay and being afraid to come out. That was obvious, but I didn't realize he had feelings for Eddie until the end when he did that carving in the tree. So that was just kind of interesting. I think they were trying to play it off in a like I love you as more than a friend kind of a way, and I just didn't get that vibe because I feel like you, Lance, like I don't like you that way, but if you were dying, I would freak out the same way because you're my best friend. So like I guess that was an interesting thing to me. But overall, I liked the movie more than you for sure, Lance. I gave it the same rating, 3 out of 5 couch cushions. I thought it was too long. I thought the ending was kind of weak. But I thought the casting was really good. I liked how much humor they had. They had a good amount of humor, and there were some really funny parts. I enjoyed the fact that it's not a typical scary movie. I'm just not really into scary movies that much. I liked that there was a lot of moments that were daylight and not just dark and dimly lit all the time. I don't know. It was a 9.8 from Absolute Geek.
Matt, yeah, and he didn't even watch it. He didn't even watch it.
I know that's Absolute Geek's thing. One of them always comes in and gives a crazy high rating on the movie,
and they never saw it.
Yeah,
I think my problem, Max, is that I do love horror movies. Like, I love horror movies in general. I'll watch even crappy horror movies, like, you know, The Grudge and stuff like that. Those are crappy horror movies, and I still love them for what they are. This one, though, see, the first one had so much depth to it compared to other, you know, cheap scare movies.
Well, that's why I liked it so much. It was really good.
And yeah. And then with the second one, I went in with so much like anticipation and high hope. I've been excited about this movie for 2 years. And it just was a letdown, you know? Like, have you ever had those movies where you just go in overly hyped and then it just doesn't live up to your hype, and then you see it as worse than what most people do?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because it doesn't live up to the picture that you painted.
Glass is a good example. Age of Ultron is for me. I got super hyped, and then it really let me down. Iron Man 3 is another one. Got super hyped. I left the theater pissed off. I was so mad.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, I get it. And I think Chapter 2 suffered a little bit from that for me as well, because I was really excited to see it. Not as much as those other ones, because I'm not as into horror as I am comic book movies. But I was excited, and I was, you know, they thought I was Absolute Geek says I thought I was about to confess my love for. Oh, Lance was about to confess his love for me. Okay.
Oh,
Yeah.
we cut that one short.
No secret.
Well, Lance and we are hetero life mates, so there's
Okay.
If our wives leave us, which most likely they will someday, Max and I are going to get a hetero bachelor pad.
Roomies.
You'd have to move up here, buddy.
Our wives are going to wise up someday and leave us. We're just waiting for the day that it happens.
You'd have to move up here, man. I'm not leaving my job. It's too good.
But yeah, I'm really bummed, man. I've been looking forward to this movie, and I've been like really itching for this movie to come out, and it just kind of let me down. I have the same feeling. I have the same feeling as when what was the Apocalypse came out? X-Men Apocalypse. Because Days of Future Past it was so good in my mind, and then Apocalypse came out, and I was so excited for Oscar Isaac, and it just wasn't that good, you know. And then there's I don't know. It just sucks when they build something up so well and then just don't follow it up with the same level of passion.
I hear you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for us tonight. So, as usual, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Couch Crunchers. We are always posting articles on the website as well, couchcrunchers.com. Check out my satire piece. I had some fun this week and wrote a little satire piece.
It was really funny.
Spider-Man. Yeah.
Really
just a little article about what I think the next Spider-Man movie should be about. I was feeling silly a couple nights ago and just decided to throw that up there. I might do more of those because that was fun. But yeah, do you guys have anything else to plug?
Check us out on Facebook. We are going to be at Tucson Comic-Con doing 2 panels with some of our friends. I believe Corbin is joining us, and Tyler will be there, of course. Tyler is with Couch Crunchers, but he'll be resuming his responsibilities with Couch Crunchers by the time Tucson rolls around. We don't have dates yet, but we'll be posting that on the Facebook as far as what time we'll be on. But and then Matt is giving his endorsement of the new Shia LaBeouf movie, Peanut Butter Falcon, which about the handicap wrestler. Yeah,
I've
that's
never
all
heard
I
of that
have.
movie.
I didn't either until he told me about it today, and it sounds really interesting. Shia LaBeouf is a really
You guys need to watch
actor.
more trailers.
I watch a lot of trailers. I'm always on the interwebs.
You're missing out on Shia LaBeouf's.
Fury is one of my favorite movies, and it's mainly because of him. Like
Yeah,
he
you gotta
does
watch
so well
out.
in that movie.
You just got to keep track of Shia LaBeouf because I don't know if you know this, but he is an actual cannibal, and he might be lurking in that window behind you, Max.
Funny story about Shia LaBeouf, and then we can go if you want. In the movie Fury, not like all of his scratches and stuff on his face, none of that is makeup. Like he was literally scratching his face with a knife in between takes to like give, like that's how invested he gets into those roles. Like he's just crazy, dude. He's just a crazy dude. So just do it.
he is a weird guy. Yeah, and Absolute Geek says he's got a movie coming out based on his own life. Yes, he does. Yeah, I saw the trailer for that. Looks interesting. All right, well, thanks for joining us, and until next time, nerds out.